Hey guys, welcome back to another lesson in the Python Programming for Beginners series. So in this video, we'll be talking about for loops and range function. In our last video, we talked about for loops and loops generally. In the last video, we see how you can use loops with lists. So you see how you can use for loop to iterate over a list and then perform whatever operation you want to perform on that list. But there are times that you don't have a list to work with. Possibly you just want to perform a certain operation over a specific number of times. Possibly you want to count from 1 to 100. You want to print a line in 10 times. So just times that you don't have lists to work with. How do you do that with loops? You do that with loops using the range function. The range function is used to generate a range of numbers with which you can loop through over those numbers. For example, you have the for keyword, then you can call it number or whatever name you want to give to the variable, and then followed by the in keyword. After the in keyword, you have the range function. So the range function accepts two arguments or parameters, whatever you call it. It accepts two arguments. The first argument is the start of the range, and then the second argument is the end of the range. So for example, you want to perform a certain operation, let's say between 1 and 10. So the start will be 1 and then the end will be 10. Okay, so followed by the colon. Then let's perform a simple operation. Let's just print the numbers between 1 and 10. We can print a number. This is just similar to our last example using for loops and lists. Here now, in this example, range is going to generate number between 1 and 10. So in the first example, number is going to be 1. You can see this in action. Let's execute this. So as you can see, range is generating a number between 1 and 10. So in the first iteration, number is 1, and then we print 1 here. In the second iteration, after executing all this code, then it goes back to the top and the number is assigned to 2. It goes on and on like that until it gets to 9. Just as you can see here, whenever you are using range, your boundary is not inclusive. The first number here is inclusive in the iteration, the numbers generated, but the last number is not inclusive. So for example, if you want to perform an operation 10 times, you know that range is going to stop at 1 less than the boundary you define. So if you want to perform something in 10 times, you just use 11. So it's going to start from 1 and then it will stop at 10. We can clear this and run that again. Let's clear the console and then run this again. We have 1 to 10 printed in our console. There are certain facts to be noted about range. The first fact to be noted about range is that range does not perform any operation in itself. It doesn't actually do anything. So range is used in conjunction with other functions. In our context now, we are using range with for loop. Range in itself does not perform any operation. We can see that in action by printing range itself. We can print, say, range of numbers between 1 to, let's say, 5. So if we run this now, so you can see just this function is printed. 1 to 5 are not printed. Alright, so the second thing you should note about range is that it can accept just one argument, it can accept 2, and it can accept 3. If you pass just one argument, that means it's going to start counting from 0. It will not start from 1, just as we defined there. In our definition there, we gave it two arguments. So we define this as our lowest boundary and we define this as our highest boundary. And we've seen already that the highest boundary is not inclusive in the iteration. So if you pass just one argument, it's going to start your iteration from 0. Let's say 10 now, and let's print a number. If you give it just 2 arguments, let's run this again. What do we have? So you can see it start from 0, and since we give it 10, so it's going to start at 9. The first fact about range is it doesn't do anything in itself unless you use it in conjunction with other functions. And the second thing is we can pass just one argument. Passing just one argument to range is going to start your iteration from 0. But if you pass 2 arguments to it, it's going to use the first digit as the lowest boundary and the second digit as the highest boundary. You are not restricted to 1. You can start from 6 or whatever number you like. So if we clear the console now and run this again, let's run this again. see that we are going to start from 6, 7, 8, and 9. So 10 is not inclusive, which is our highest boundary. By default, range increases in steps of 1. So whenever you are iterating using range function, by default it decreases in steps of 1. As you can see in this example, we have 6 as our starting point. The next value is 7, so you can see the difference between 6 and 7 is just 1. Possibly you want it to increase in steps of 2 or in steps of 3, in steps of 4. You pass that step as the third argument. So for example, we want it to be increasing in steps of 2. Let's start our iteration from 1. Let's use 1 as our lowest boundary. So now we are counting between 1 to 10 and want it to increase in steps of 2. Let's clear the console so we have a clear console to work with. So executing this, so you see we have 1. Since we have defined our step to be 2, so it starts from 1, it omits 2, and then it goes to 3. The next is 5, the next is 7, the next is 9. You can actually use whatever number as your step. If you want it to increase in steps of 3, so you are going to have 1, 4, so you have 1, 4, 7. Alright. The range function is available for you to use with for loop whenever you are not working with list. If you don't have any list to work with and you need to perform repeated operations, you can use the range function to generate a sequence and then use the for loop to iterate over that sequence. So just as a realistic example, apart from printing just the numbers in the range, you can actually create a multiplication table using the range function. So we can create a multiplication, let's say table 2. Let's comment this, let's write this here. We want to create a multiplication table 2. Alright, so let's create the first let's say 12. Yes, we want to create multiplication table 2 from 1 to 12. Since we'll be increasing in steps of 1, so we don't need the third argument, and we want 12 to be our highest value. That means our highest boundary is going to be 13, so that's going to stop at 12. Okay, so we can print using the f string. So we can say 2 times, are going to have number here, 2 times number. The first number is going to be 1, so we say equal to, so we have 2 times number. Right, so with this simple for loop, we are going to have multiplication table 2 from 1 to 12. If we run this now, let's run this and see what we have printed. So you have 2 times 1 to be equal to 2, 2 times 2, 4, 3, 6, 2 times 4, 8, up to 2 times 12, which is 24. The simple thing I did there is I defined a for loop using a range of 1 to 13. Since you know that the highest boundary is not inclusive in our operation, that means the for loop is going to terminate at 12. Alright, so I printed this string using f strings, so we can easily interpolate our variables with the string. Okay, so we have 2 multiplied by the first digit of the iteration is going to be 1. Since we have 1 as our lowest boundary here, so it's going to be 1. So we have 2 times 1 here is equal to, I'm just using x to signify our times. So you have 1 as the variable, then we have equal to, so we have this interpolation here. Then we have this mathematical operation here, multiplying 2 by the number, which is 1 in this case. So after printing the first line, then the loop is going to start again from the beginning, and this time number is going to be 2 because the default step for range is 1. So it's going to be 2. Number is going to be 2 now. Then we have 2 times 2. We are at this level now. So 2 times 2 is going to be equal to 4. Right? And then it goes on and on like that. With this simple statement, you can do your multiplication table from 1 to 1 million if you so wish. You can do to 30. All you need to do is just change the boundary. If you want to do to 30, you use the highest boundary of 31 so that it stops iterating at 30. If we run this again, let's clear the console. Running this again now, so you are going to have it to 30. You see how easy it is to perform repeated operation using for loop. If you have any comments, don't forget to drop it in the comment section, and also subscribe to the channel for more Python programming tutorials. I will see you in the next lesson.